To do this next part of the morphing project, what we're gonna go ahead and do is create an initial portrait and then in proportion, and then we're gonna line up the facial features and using our ruler and make sure that they line up all the way across our page. It's gonna be very difficult for your viewer to tell what you are morphing into or how you're changing if the facial features don't line up. So the first thing I'm gonna go ahead and do, and then I'll zoom in a little bit for you all, is give myself about a 2-finger width measurement from the top of my box. Okay, so this first frame is gonna be our portrait in proportion. So I'm doing about 2 finger widths for this first one, okay? And this will represent the top of my head, okay? So kind of just right where the hair is. So from there, let me zoom in just a little bit. Let me shift y'all over. All right. Okay. I'm using a regular number 2 pencil. You all are going to be using an H pencil just to keep these lines as light as possible, and that way you can erase them as you go. So I'm going to go ahead and just start my face in proportion. Now, proportion means making things the right size in relation to the whole. So what I'm going to do is using that 2-finger width guideline, and if your fingers are, you know, a little bit wider than mine, you can do 1 finger width, that's fine. What I'm going to go ahead and do is I am going to, as lightly as possible, create an oval for my face, okay? Now, I'm holding my pencil back further, and I'm doing this as light as possible, and I'm going around a bunch of times, okay? From here, what I'm going to go ahead and do is once I have a bunch of light lines on my paper, I am going to then choose the line out of all of these series of lines that I feel like make the best oval. So I'm going to trace this one here and make it go over and up like that, okay? And then what I will do is erase some of these outliers that I no longer need. Okay, so I don't need anything that goes way, way out here. I don't need anything that goes way here in the middle. I don't need this one that goes way up top, etc. This helps me create more of a base, an accurate, I think, base oval for my face, rather than locking into one line from the very beginning and then drawing it too dark and then being like, oops, that's not what I wanted. Okay, so a bunch of light oval lines, again, holding your pencil back a little bit further. And this is what I have here for my oval, okay? Now, at this point, what I'm gonna go ahead and start to do is I am gonna start to create a little bit of a jawline. So I'm gonna add a little bit of a flat line here, angle it up and over, and angle this up, and then oval over like that, okay? Now remember, this oval represents the entire head, from the chin all the way up to the very, very top of your head. Not where your forehead meets your hair, but the very, very top of your head, okay? Also from here, what I'm gonna go ahead and start to do is I am going to, when we're talking about our face in proportion, just before I do anything else, I'm doing this backwards than I normally do. I'm gonna go ahead and create lines for the neck. So the neck kind of starts at the side of the oval, curves in ever so slightly, down and out. Start at the side of the oval, curve in ever so slightly, down and out, okay? At this point, I can take this down off the page for my shoulders, okay? So remember, your shoulders for a head in proportion are about 3 face widths wide, okay? So you have one head width on one shoulder, 1 head width for your actual head, and then 1 head width for the other side. So if we were to measure this, this would go all the way out to here, 1 head width in the middle, and then 1 head width out here to draw shoulders that are wide enough to be in proportion to this head, okay? So this is what I have so far. I may add, you know, something that this person's wearing, etc. Okay. Now, as we go forward with this, let me go ahead and just zoom in a little bit. And at this point, what I'm going to go ahead and start to do is sketch out the the guidelines for the face and proportion, okay? So the first guideline I am going to do is I'm going to very, very lightly see if I can find the middle, okay, of my oval. You can also do measurements with this. That is more than fine, okay? So if I were to divide this, this is about 4.5, okay? So 4.5 inches long. I could then divide 4.5 by 2 to get this measurement, okay? So I would have about 2.25, and that would be my halfway point, okay? So feel free to do that as well. And remember, we're gonna keep this guideline light, all right? So you can use your ruler for that. I like to just hold my pencil back and eyeball it, okay? This will be the guideline for the eyes a little bit later on. Okay, the next measurement we're gonna go ahead and do is we're gonna divide this bottom section in half again. So right now I have this measurement of 2.25. I'm gonna divide that in half. So I have maybe 1 inch and a little bit. Okay, so right about there. Again, I can use my ruler for this, or I can just keep that straight across, keep my pencil level. All right, this will represent where the bottom of the nose goes, and then I'm gonna divide this section in half again. All right, and that will give me the measurement for the lips, okay? The other thing I forgot to do is bisect my face in half vertically, okay? So this, and again, you can do this as a measurement, all right? So if you divide 3 in half, yep, 3, it's a little bit over 3.5, you're gonna put this at 1.5, okay? And again, it all depends on what the size of the oval is, okay? So at this point, what I'm gonna go ahead and start doing is I'm gonna start drawing the features in proportion, okay? We talked about originally when we did this lesson how the eyes are smack dab in the center of the head. So remember, this whole area here represents forehead plus hair, okay? So a lot of students try and draw the eyes up a lot higher than they actually are. They're actually in the center of the head. Your eyes are in proportion to your face, and so they're roughly about 5 eye widths. Your face is roughly about 5 eye widths wide, okay? So I'm gonna go ahead and, you can do some measurements. So you can divide, all right, this 3 by 3 inches by 5 and get a measurement. That's fine. I am going to attempt to eyeball it here. Okay, so I'm gonna see if this is about a right measurement for this. So if I have from here to here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, this measurement looks about right. Okay. In terms of width of the eyeballs. Okay, so I'm gonna create 2, and look how light I'm drawing, okay? 2 football shapes kind of for the eyes, right on that line, okay? Now from tear ducts down here, again, I'm gonna keep this really light, equals about what the base of the nose will be. All right, remember our nose takes up about 1/3 of our face, okay? Our face not being our head, but kind of where your hairline is down to your chin. So if I take this measurement here, this nose representing 1/3 of the face, not the head, and popping it up, my hairline will start right here, okay? So this person's hair is going to be from here up, okay? At this guideline here, remember we have the base shape for our nose is kind of 1 sphere in the center, followed by 2 on the outsides, okay? Remember, that is the base form. If you want to make it larger or narrower, you can, okay? I'm going to create 2 little kind of semicircles here for the nostrils. Okay, and then 2 kind of shapes for either side. Those, I call them squash C shapes. And I'm gonna bring this nose in ever so slightly up above the eye. Okay, and then I'm ready kind of for the eyebrows. okay, which I'll talk about in just a moment. All right. Now, in order to do the lips, I'm actually going to skip back to the eyes because sometimes your width of your lips is kind of measured by, you know, where your iris is looking forward. So I'm going to go ahead and very briefly just start to refine my overall eye shape here. So I'm making this football shape. And remember, there's lots of different parts to the eye, so I'm going to sketch out a circle where I see most of it. For the iris, I don't see all of it, because remember, my eyelid is covering it. Do the same thing on this side. And again, this is if a person is looking forward. Okay, and I'm going to go ahead, and if a person's looking forward, we see the pupil is that little black dot in the center. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and do some tear ducts here on either side. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and do my eyelid lines, starting at the corner of each line, or each eyeball. I like to draw it as like kind of just sort of a hint of the eyelid. Okay, and remember, guys and girls have eyelashes. Just how long you choose to make them is entirely up to you. All right, so if it's the right eye, you're going to curve them ever so slightly to the left, or sorry, to the right. So right eye, right side, left eye, ever so slightly to the left side. Okay, and then the eyebrows start at the tear duct and they go the entire length of the eye. And again, if this is the right eye, it's going to come slightly to the right. You can change the, you know, the overall shape of them. Okay, they're kind of going to come like this. All right, and I'm going to hurry up. All right, so I'm not going to mess with the eyebrows anymore, but you totally can. Now, when we have our eyes looking forward like this, if you go the part of the iris that's closest to the tear duct down to that third line, this represents typically how wide a mouth is. Okay, so I am going to sketch slightly above this line right here, the overall shape for my lips or my mouth. Okay, typically people right below their nostrils have like a little bit of a V shape or a U shape. Okay, and most people, not most people, a decent portion of people, their top lip is a little bit thinner than their bottom. Okay, you can check this out for yourself, like in a mirror, and kind of just make it a little bit more match you. Okay, so I have something that looks like this. And again, I'm just drawing this slightly above that guideline. My guideline is right here, the lip line. I have it where they meet slightly above that. Okay, bottom lip I like to do as a sort of squashed U shape. Okay, so I have something that looks like this. All right, and then last but not least, we have your ears. So your ears are actually the same size as your nose, so they take up about a third of your face. I think what confuses people is that a lot of times you don't see this top part of your ear because your hair may cover it. Okay. The more you make them come out from your face, the more they may end up sticking outward. Okay. I would consider drawing the hair as a shape first and then adding your detail in. Remember, we want this to slightly resemble you, does not have to look exactly like you. The main goal is to get it in proportion and look slightly human, okay? So this is kind of the basic shape for the hair. From here, I can go back out and add details in it and shading, etc. Okay, so this is kind of what I have just for the face in proportion. Now, one thing you all are going to do from here, let's say you have your face in proportion. Probably next time, or this time if we have time, we're going to go ahead and line this up. Okay, so all the way across your paper. Let me see if we can do this. Okay, all the way across your paper, you are going to go ahead and do a series of lines. Let me grab a bigger ruler real quick. All right, So to do your guidelines that go all the way across, all right, I'm gonna take my longer ruler. This is the 18-inch one, I believe. And what I'm gonna do is make these lines go all the way across my paper. Let me see if I can zoom out even further. Okay, let me see if I can move y'all over. Sorry. Okay, so to make these guidelines go all the way across your paper, this was the top of my oval. Okay, so I'm gonna line it up, see if it's straight. And I am gonna very lightly, because remember, these are guidelines, and take this all the way across my paper. Okay, so that's for the top of my head. Okay, from here, remember we did the eye line right here. All right, so I'm gonna line it up, make sure it's straight. And again, this will be my eye line. I'm keeping it super light because remember, we're gonna erase these guidelines later on, okay? Right here, I have the bottom of the nose line. And then lip line. And again, I'm drawing these a little bit darker. I want you to keep them as light as possible. And then your chin. Okay, so your chin line is going right here. All right, now the next thing you're gonna wanna do, probably before you do anything else, so these are the guidelines, is make your oval roughly the same size for all three, okay? So I'm going around a bunch of times. I'm gonna do this on the last one as well. Okay, and before you lock into your drawing, okay? If you need a little reminder as to what each of these things are, you can write super lightly: eye, nose, mouth, and chin. We just want to erase that later on, okay? So a couple of things in order to get this morphing exactly how we want it, so that it looks like, you know, a normal person is changing into something completely different. We've got to have these guidelines of the original drawing be the same all the way across. Okay, so again, we're keeping those guidelines super light. We're going to erase them later on. We just want to make sure that things line up correctly.